How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Chair Talk. Guys, today we're going to discuss 5 tips for correctional leadership. These tips are going to come from a book that I'm planning on releasing sometime next year. It's a daily reader. It's going to have tons of advice that's going to complement well with the other books I have on the market. Today, my guest is going to be Russ Hamilton, and we're just going to briefly go over 5 tips. And again, these tips will be found in a later release of a book I'm planning to have out at the beginning of 2025. But before we bring Russ in, let me go ahead and tell you, Inmate Manipulation Decoded is on the market. If you guys get a chance, please pick up this book. This book has tons of advice on, avoiding the game of manipulation. It's used for training all across the country. So if you guys get a chance, please check out this book. Link to that is in the description. We also have How to Succeed in Corrections, Lessons Learned from Working in a Prison. Guys, there's tons of advice in this book as well, not just from myself, but also from other professionals in the field and how to navigate this tough profession, whether it's on the leadership side or on the tactical side. It doesn't matter. This book covers a lot of good information. It's published by Blue 360 Media. If you guys are looking to get this book, please check out the link to that also in the description. And February 20th, tips for new correctional officers and their supervisors. Now, I printed this out, but the book itself will be out tomorrow. It's pretty exciting. Same company, Blue 360 Media. Link to that is in the description. This has tons of tips as well that's going to partner well with this book as well as this book. Whoop, lost something there. And then, guys, hopefully in the near future, around 2025 beginning, I will have that daily reader. And again, guys, when I do these books, I try not to revisit a tip that I already discussed, or if I do, I try to add another perspective to it. This daily reader is 365 tips. So I'm going to try to advance some new ideas, maybe evolve some of the old ones I put in there because I grow every day. But I'm really excited to have that one out in the market in 2025. But again, the 5 tips that you have here, I'm going to be reading from that book that will be coming out in 2025. I'm excited because the whole first month of January is done, and I sent that over to the publisher. Now I'm working on February. All right, Russ, what do you got?
Hey there, everyone. Russ Hamilton here. Anyway, I am a former and retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I've also been a senior juvenile correctional officer, and I currently work for a private company, where we do reentry and rehabilitation for a local probation department and a local county jail.
And Russ, how's Keepers of Chaos going?
So Keepers of Chaos is going gangbusters. We are very near that 6,000 member mark. It's something that I think is really paying off for a lot of our members. Everyone there seems to be dedicated to the proposition that everyone needs help in corrections, and they're willing to both give it and receive it. And so I'm very proud of what I've achieved on Keepers of Chaos.
Yeah, if you guys get a chance, please check out Keepers of Chaos on Facebook. There are a lot of people that in this profession that are on that page helping people. It's a great mentorship. I love what your page does. And again, guys, if you get a chance, it's worthy of joining Facebook, I guess. I know a lot of people are some little weary when it comes to joining Facebook, but this would be a good reason to join, just to be a part of that group. So as I mentioned, we're going to do 5 tips for correctional leadership. Now, guys, remember, this is coming from a book that won't be out on the market till next year, but I did complete the month of January, which has 31 tips there. So I'm just going to borrow 5 from that month. And it's pretty exciting because that first month is already at the publisher's hands. So the first one I got, now Russ doesn't know what these tips are yet, so I'm just going to read them off, and then Russ will provide some insight. Because remember, guys, these books that I've written are basically what we utilize to engage dialogue. So somebody would then read the thought, and then we would get feedback from those who are there to listen, the students, if you will. So I don't know if the dates are going to matter here. The dates could always change. But with that said, the first tip I have is be people focused. And this is what I have written. When you move up in your career, when you begin to attain higher positions of authority, so frontline supervisor to prison management, whatever that case may be, as you travel up, your mindset must shift from being task focused to being people oriented. This means that your primary focus must shift from the work being done to the people who are assigned to do the work. Remember, as you move up, your responsibility, your main priority is for the people you supervise. And in turn, the people you supervise will then feel supported and empowered to accomplish the work or task. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
So, one of the things that, I always think about with regards to the supervision aspect is, you're really there as a developer. You are there to develop people. In some cases, you're there to, develop their latent talents that they have, in order to make them, better, first line officers or whatever. Excuse me. Some of those people, you need to be there to develop them in order to, make sure that they're ready to, make rank, that they're ready to proceed on, maybe even past you. And so, if you're only focusing at the task on hand and you're not really looking to develop people, you're kind of short shrifting your department in a way, because your department is counting on you to help provide some of this. And that can truly happen, at any level, even the lowest level of custody, which is generally officer. But you really have to, make sure that, everyone is contributing in a way that moves the chains and that, makes us able to, do that development phase, that being able to, cultivate people and, keep them moving onward and upward, as it were. Even if that doesn't mean gaining rank, sometimes it's just a matter of skill sets.
Yeah, I love that, Russ, because it's a matter of kind of cultivating future leaders. And it's funny because when I moved into the position as prison management almost a decade ago, there's so many areas of responsibility that you have. And I know when I was an officer, I was so concerned with, when people move up, they got to have done cell extractions. They got to have used force. And there's so much more to it than that I think a lot of times when we look to promote people up, it could be a look backwards at their experience at a certain task. But having said that, I think we need to start asking questions about, can they manage people? Can they provide an environment in which people can grow and be their best? Because I think we have gone through a system now where, leadership was about being the best you can be, but now it's really about, as a leader, what you can do for the team. Basically how you can grow and develop the team. And basically leadership now kind of, steps back and helps facilitate the needs of the team. So yes, I think that as we move people up, I think that the question we need to start shifting to is, can they manage people to do the job? And not so much, are they already experts at a job? And again, Russ, I'm sure you would agree with that, correct?
No, absolutely. That's where we want to be with things. We have to, we have to be able to do, everything well to a certain extent. But, perhaps one of the most important features, though, is actually, being able for that, to spark personal development in other people, because there's going to be a point at which, your facility or your department is going to rely on that. We can't just, assume that, hey, we can all stay stagnant and everything's cool, and think that, that in the future that's not going to come back to bite us in the butt.
Yes. Now, the next tip we got is the importance of preserving the feedback loop. And by the way, guys, we do wind up going to conferences and kind of teaching off the lessons that are in these books. There may be tons of lessons, but because they're so impactful to me and I kind of journal them, I know exactly when I've learned these. So like, not only do I read it, even though the it's pretty much specific, the message here is pretty much specific. This is the message I want to get across. But when I teach the classes or I do conferences or we do maybe focus on the show a little bit about that specific topic, I'll share with you the experience of where that lesson was learned. But for here, as we talk about preserving the feedback loop, Feedback should never be solely seen as just a reactive measure that is meant to address concerns. Rather, feedback is essential for growth and development, as well as the creation and maintaining of positive employee morale. Employee and timely feedback allows for the exchange of ideas, values, and most importantly, appreciation. As a manager, as a supervisor, never, and I mean never, minimize or throw away the importance of the feedback loop. Without timely feedback, staff from whoa, there it goes, Russ. How's the dog? Without
my dog's attacking somebody.
All right, well, let it do what it's got to do. It's a mini Russ.
Well, yeah, I'll go get the 55-gallon drum and the Visqueen here in a little bit.
Well, without time, you're going to hide the body there? Is that what you're planning on doing?
Well, yeah, otherwise it creates all kinds of paperwork issues.
Yeah, I totally agree. Without timely feedback, staff from management to frontline across all departments will be left in a state of ambiguity. Simply, they won't know where they stand in the moment because they don't know where we, the leaders, the agency, stand in the moment. And sadly, this may be the greater case. Staff won't know of their greater value to the bigger picture. Basically, without timely feedback, without good, honest transparency, you're eliminating the chance to build trust by telling your staff you care and you value what they have to offer. Feedback is essential. Russ, what's your thoughts on that?
So the first thing I'll say that, supervisors, managers, administrators, no matter who you are, pay attention to the shape of what we're talking about there. It's the feedback loop. It's not the feedback pipeline one way kind of thing. When we talk about feedback, I mean, that kind of implies it that, that it goes both ways. But so many times, I've seen, some supervisors, administrators, whatever, they think that the most important tool that they have is their mouth, when really it's their ears. You're not learning a thing while you're running your mouth. You're only learning things while you're actually listening. And so when that listening entails, listening to people who are, in that bracket, I don't want to say below, but below you, you're above them. You're supervising, administrating, managing them. You really need to listen because those people have insights based on their proximity to what's going on that you will never see because you're not out there. I'm not saying you're never out there, but you're not out there all day long in the trenches. You're not out there all day long observing a yard. Let those people inform you and educate you. Don't think that because you've achieved something that the education only goes one way. So preserve that feedback loop and make sure too that you're doing your good job of broadcasting what's going on to those above you. And it's a bilateral action. There has to be that communication. It has to go both ways.
Yeah, I love that, guys. I with this thought here, I just want to mention something. When you're a leader and you decide that you're going to lead through fear, which winds up making people aversive to risk, they don't want to speak up. When you cut that feedback loop, the morale is done. People become disenfranchised. They give up. There's no room for innovation. And I've actually witnessed that firsthand. I mean, to the point where we were even afraid to even ask to go to the bathroom if we had to go to the bathroom. Can you imagine how that would feel? So having said that, for people that lead through fear, you have to realize something. People are going to stop speaking to you. They're going to be afraid of what happens after they make a suggestion. And with that said, that's going to kind of cross us into our next tip, which is this. Hold on, let me get that out there. Loyalty versus agreement. Loyalty has nothing to do with agreement. And as leaders, we need to separate the two. Loyalty is more about having the courage to speak truth to power, or what may be exponentially harder, speaking opinion to power. Be mindful for those in your charge, though these are not easy things to do and truly require a great amount of intentional effort. Your mission as a leader is to promote an environment, a culture that eliminates fear in one's effort to speak up. Remember, as a leader, you need to build on personal power and not positional power. Your goal as a leader should always be increasing your power with people and not over people. And in my experience, the best way to do that is to listen to your staff, value their input, And again, show them that you care. What's your thoughts on that, Russ? Loyalty versus agreement.
So yeah, I think that there's of course there's factions of people that are always going to, mistake what loyalty really is. Loyalty is not blind allegiance. Loyalty is actually, having the wherewithal to care to the point that you're willing to call someone on their bullshit or on them making a bad decision or on them, not being present in the moment and doing things that are, antithetical towards good safety and security. It's not backing them no matter what. That just simply doesn't work. Be loyal to them to the point that you can tell them, no, that's a bad idea, or no, we should be doing something else, doing something different. And they should be appreciating good, honest, candid feedback, with, no holds barred. That's one of those things that, simply having a yes person in your corner isn't of any real true value to you. Even if we're talking about numbers here, right? You might have, a lot of people that are going to say yes, 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 and follow you around like, they're like all little, sycophants, they're little, your little minions or whatever. But does that actually help you? And if you're honest, no, it does not. It stunts your growth. It turns you into a person who is focused on techniques that, use micromanagement rather than growth and personal investment to achieve the causes that you deem worthy through good judgment above all else. And so I think that wraps up everything I have to say about that.
No, it's perfect. Because guys, a lot of the tips that we provide will always gear towards empowering staff, giving them a voice. And sometimes it may come off in different messages because we have heard a lot of excuses as to why people decide not to do that in leadership positions. So with that said, sometimes when we speak the message, the end result usually is about empowering staff and giving them a chance to speak. And sometimes you do have leadership that's mostly it's their pride, but they don't want their position to be in question. And the moment they mention something, they expect 100% agreement. And that's not always the case. Sometimes the people that speak up are the ones that are more loyal because they're taking the courage to do it because they don't want the leader to look bad or the ship to fail. I'm reading a book now about giving power away. And the basics of this as a leader is, yes, there's time for that hierarchical structure. We get it, where there's that command and compliance. But you got to know when to make the leap to what we call interdependence, where we tend to be dependent on each other. That, I think, is, where we are headed. And granted, we do have emergent times, and we get it. There's a time for that command structure because, again, it's a security thing. I get it. But most of the time, guys, when we're not operating that emergency level, we could make a leap to where we're dependent on each other and we're able to share our thoughts in a way that's safe and, helps us grow and develop. I mean, you got something you want to say with that, Russ? Because I saw you.
So I would say, in general, and this isn't always true, but I would say that, in general, you have two general options. When you're a supervisor, really, truly more when you're a leader, and that's you can issue an order or you can receive a suggestion. And the latter of that, receiving a suggestion, is almost always better because, that requires input that your people believe will be accepted or at least examined and looked at and assessed rather than if you're always barking orders. Then they're just going to become automatons. They're not going to do the hard work, which is thinking, and be able to proffer these sometimes great suggestions down to you. So, when you're left with those two options, like I say, you can give an order or you can receive a suggestion. Always try and go with that receiving a suggestion first. Because, it's going to be things that you have not thought of or you have not thought all the way through. And if you've done a really good job at training these people, they're just going to blow you out of the water. You're just going to be amazed at how they can help you solve a problem. But they're not going to do that if you're always barking orders.
Yeah, and I love what Russ is saying, because remember, the people that are down there are solving problems you don't know exist every day. Um, this one is an important one because this seems to be done a lot by people that leaders that look to cover their own ass all the time, so they're quick to write memos or policy. So for this one here, never let your leadership style become so memo or policy driven that the defining purpose of the work being done becomes solely absorbed or eroded in the written details of the process. Imagine being so memo oriented that you as a leader allow no room for your staff to feel they have contributed. Instead, their efforts to find meaning within their contribution, their efforts to align to something purposeful, get stifled by workplace bureaucracy. Never, as a leader, allow for your want to detail or write a process that overwhelms purpose. If anything, as a leader, break away from bureaucracy, which is detail in the process, and build toward innovation, which is staff investment and commitment. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, if you look at this particular one, you can almost, trace it directly back to where we talked about feedback loops. One of the things that goes on with these memos and stuff is it's just, a top down mentality. Instead of doing that, use that feedback loop, develop, that document that you want, but then send it around. We've all got email these days, right? And ask for input. Say, hey, here's what I've come up with. What do you suggest? How can we make this better? The direction that we need to go is X, Y, and Z, because of these other things that are happened. Now you guys help me out. Let's find a way to flesh this thing out. So often what we see though is the memo process, which is really terrible because it tries to supplant policy and procedure without any of this actual input. And it just creates a lot of hostility because everyone's going, well, this is stupid. How many times have you heard that? And that's kind of a little bit of a gut reaction, but it's so true most of the time. Why not think things through? Why not come up with actual solutions instead of, all these, Band-Aid things, Don't be that, that Post-it note general, who just thinks that, hey, this is top down and I get to run things the way I want. You're just gonna, cut your nose off to spite your face.
Yeah, and guys, I've seen memos that literally try to cover what they feel will be every situation, which you can't. Corrections is fluid. And then what winds up happening is staff that need to make a decision wind up relying on that memo that doesn't cover every possible situation. And then what happens is they get frozen. So, I mean, or inmates get a better understanding of that memo and wind up utilizing it to their own advantage. And we talked about that when it comes to professional predictability. But having said that, this is something here that I feel is usually done by leadership that quickly just, possible lawsuit. Let's write a memo. Let's just show our efforts. It's like, yeah, but the problem is not everything may require a memo. Maybe it's just holding someone accountable instead of punishing everyone else. A lot of people see an added memo as a limitation of their freedom to make a decision. And now the problem is the go-getters, the people like Russ and myself who want to feel involved in the decision-making process, automatically got the memo. And the first thing we think about is our hands are cuffed, and that's a tough feeling for someone who wants to be a go-getter, who wants to seize the moment, because then what can wind up happening is they get disenfranchised and you wind up actually taking who could be a future leader and just making them a lot less than what they could be. You step on their potential. All right, Russ, this is the last one. This is called 4 Tiers of Efficiency. As a leader, one of your primary objectives are to direct attention and activity to what is important. Therefore, you must remain focused on your efforts to achieve what is important. Never let the loud screams of the urgent constantly distract you from the quiet yet essential whispers of the important. Leaders who constantly shift due to external pressures find themselves constantly sacrificing the important for the urgent. Craig Rochelle, known leadership expert, breaks down what's important into 4 tiers of efficiency. At the first tier sits what is mission critical. In corrections, the mission critical objectives are safety, security, custody, and care. These are essential for the everyday operations and should never be sacrificed. All decisions made should be filtered through what is mission critical. And we actually did a show on this. The second tier is what is seen as very important and strategic. The third tier is what is meaningful but not vital. And the fourth and final tier is externally initiated and not a priority. Sadly, it's the fourth and final tier. So that's the externally initiated and not a priority. The tier that sits at the lower end of the importance and efficiency, where most inconsistent managers find themselves shifting towards. And sadly enough, these managers end up making sacrifices that ultimately conflict or threaten what is important, what is seen as mission critical. What's your thoughts on all that, Russ? There's a lot there.
Yeah, just thinking, as you were putting those out there, for lack of anything better to liken it to, it's like a dance, and there's a lot of different moves, and some of them are crucial and some of them are, just more, artistic, the dot over the I, the crossing of the T. And, there's so many times where people start to forget about the mission critical part, that safety and security. And they start, looking at all the other things. And I mean, there's a horrible example, I guess, if we're starting to look at what's going on, in the California model right now is that mission critical is being, sacrificed to pretty much, this kind of level of wokeism that I haven't ever really seen before, where it's just all about, rehabilitation and reentry, and they're sacrificing the most important part to achieve something that's very difficult to do in the best of circumstances. And so this hierarchy that you've outlined there is something that really needs to be adhered to. And, we just can't go off on this whole tangent of, squirrel this and squirrel that, and taking our eye off the ball. These things come in a specific order for a specific reason. And I'm sure that it's at some point in the near future, we're going to talk more about maybe what's happened in that, in my viewpoint, at least in the California system and others. They're not alone in that. But those things, I think if you keep them in that order and you're cognizant of them and you're intentional about which you apply and when, you're going to be a lot better off than just, deciding, hey, which of these is the most politically expedient at the moment, and then just hope for the best and keep your fingers crossed. That's not a way to operate a facility.
And you know what's scary, Russ, real quick, is that when you have new people coming in, and they come in where urgency to them is important, and they become future leaders, you start to see the sacrifices in safety and security. Would you agree?
Yeah, and part of the thing is that people pick up and they learn what they've been exposed to very early on in their career, and then they go along and they mimic it, and many times they don't have a true idea of if what they are doing is actually up to the job or not, because they have not had a significant enough breach, that danger, that incident, that completely, blows their mind, and they just had no idea about the danger that they were actually dealing with. And it's just a level of complacency in that you don't know what you don't know. This very very dangerous mindset about thinking that you're in the know when you're not. And so, man, I like these four things, man. Keep that first and foremost in your mind, and be very aware that other people are not aware of what's going on there. And we see so many times that, the mission critical things, what do they get sacrificed to? Oh, they get sacrificed to program. Oh, they get sacrificed to medical. Oh, they get sacrificed to running yard and this and that and the other thing. When sometimes we should be, slowing down and saying, hey, wait a minute, something bad is about to happen. And maybe I'll tell my story about something bad is about to happen at some other point. But that's a fair reminder of some things that I've been through in my career personally.
Well, I'm actually going to add this to my next one. I'm going to say when the urgent supersedes the important, and sadly, when the sadly the sacrifice is exposed to new hires as the essential way of things, safety, security, and care will be unknowingly sacrificed. I'll fix that all up. That was just rough. But hey, Russ, you have anything you'd like to say in closing? This was a quick, good 5 tips.
Hey, everyone. Just, had a nice little chat here with y'all. Get out there and, pay attention to this stuff. Look up more stuff, on Tier Talk, or if you're actually in the business, come on over and see us over at Keepers of Chaos, and just really work to look at things, through a network of ideas that you've had where you can actually start to impact corrections. It's not enough to just be a reactionary and say, oh, well, that sucks. Or, just have that, that mindset where, everything's reactionary, where it's just, oh, just living the dream. Go out there and actually, make a difference and, try and help people along the way. That's, I think, everything pretty much that Tier Talk and Keepers of Chaos and some of our other partners are really involved with.
Yeah, I just wanted to take advantage of a holiday. We had Monday off, so why not get some good thoughts out there in case people are home, and you never know who needs this message at that time. So thank you, Russ, for your time as always, and I'm sure we'll do another show later in the week, maybe a live if things work out well. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe. I can't do 2 thumbs up because I need the other finger to push the end of recording. Bye, guys.